Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Joining me on the podcast today is Sherry Wilson, owner of Business by the Book, which provides bookkeeping services across the country. Sherry started her business as a side hustle back in 2013, and I met her in 2014. You're going to hear a little bit about that on the show. She has grown her firm to more than 5 people and now has a location outside of her home. Sherry and her team strive to offer excellent service and industry understanding. And I know that because I've sat in multiple classes with her and watched her and just seen how she wants to have a full grasp of everything that is going on so that she can advise, as she says, within her lane. Some of the offerings of Business by the Book include budgeting, payroll, and sales tax filing, in addition to the normal bookkeeping services that, we all need, the reconciliations and the day-to-day. Sherry and her team are certified in multiple things and, QuickBooks and best practices in all types of areas, and they stay on top of the latest and greatest changes every year. Sherry and I have worked together to support clients for, I think, almost 5 years now, and we've also become really great friends in the process. I was honored to help coach Sherry as she transitioned from side hustle to a growing and thriving firm. And all of these experiences make Sherry a really great resource to have on your team. Listen in for a great discussion on what we think that you need to consider with bookkeeping, and, some of it really might surprise you. Enjoy. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Sherry, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I got to tell you, I've been so excited since I started the podcast, waiting for the right opportunity for the two of us to speak.
Oh, me too. I have to tell you that this is not something that I'm very comfortable with. So, but I'm so excited to share with you and to be a part of this. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, you and I met, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, maybe, I think 6 years ago, back in 2013.
We met in 2014 is when we met.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we had a design client in common. Mm-hmm. And we actually found out that we lived pretty close to each other, and we met for coffee at a coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And I just remember sitting there and going, oh man, we hit that off so well. And since that day, I have really enjoyed building a business relationship with you, but also a really dear and close friendship.
Oh, thank you so much. I was doing the same. I was kind of reflecting back as I was preparing for our podcast. And I was thinking back that when our friend, Amy, introduced us to each other, and then we worked with our first client together, which was Lindsay Heaney. I don't remember that. And then I was so impressed with how you coached with them. I was like, oh, would you please, just work with me too? And because at the time I started my business as a little side hustle. I took a few clients from Christy Law, the CPA that we work with. And, but then do you remember that first class, Pricing Without Emotion?
Yes.
Do you still give that class?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
I do. I do it in person. And actually, I'll give a little exciting announcement, but it's going to go online in 2020.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think I probably took that class 3 or 4 times with you.
Yes.
And I just learned so much from it. And I'll never forget, because it changed everything about how I think about business and bookkeeping, because there's so much more to it than just the bookkeeping side.
Right. It's the business part of it, right?
It is. It's fantastic. Anyway, I just want to give you a big shout out for that, because that is, to me, where it all started. Thank you.
You're welcome. And, let's talk about that for just a second, because I think it brings up a point that is huge. And I still get asked about that class. That has been my signature class. I've been teaching it since 2010. And so this is the 10th year this year. It's Pricing Without Emotion. And up through this year, it's been a 2-day, 16-hour experiential class. And it teaches all, not just, it's not like I'm walking in and going, here's what your prices should be. It's how do you calculate pricing for a service-based industry and for a product or cost of goods based industry, right? Or business type. And then how do you have a strategic plan? How do you have a tactical plan? How do those numbers fit into where you are and where you want to be? How do they fit into the ideal client, right? So it's a lot of information.
It is a lot of really, really good information.
Right. And I think the thing that I find so interesting, and I had this conversation on the episode with Courtney McLeod, where we were talking about, she came from a heavy financial background. I came from a software building background for financials. You came from a bookkeeping background. But that didn't mean that we all walked into our businesses and immediately put all that understanding, because you were focused on a portion of bookkeeping. I was focused on a portion of software. She was focused on a portion of finance. But we didn't think about it with a whole business. And so we weren't necessarily profitable all at the very beginning, the first time we got into it, because maybe it was a side hustle or something we moved into, or even those that are coming into it full on, as a full-time job. That's not an area where we tend to focus at the beginning if we're not careful. Would you agree?
I would agree. And pricing is very emotional. It's very emotional. We take it very serious when our clients want to pay us and when they don't want to pay. It's just a thing. So it is being able to take the emotion out and just think about this as a business is huge.
Yeah, and thinking about the numbers. And I'll tell you the thing that impressed me about you, the fact that you came to that class 3 or 4 times. And a lot of people, that's not an unusual or uncommon. No. So if anybody's listening, they go, wow, are you a slow learner? No, it's actually that that class is so rich indeed. I mean, it is not uncommon for me to get people in there 3 to 4 times. And I mean, over 10 years, they've paid every time to come back and retake that class.
I think each year you're adding to that too.
Correct.
You're learning so much more, and there's just so much, there's new information each time.
Yes.
I think you need to write a book.
Well, yeah, I've written one. I've written a chapter in one about planning for profit from the beginning. That's the one with Luann Nagara and some of the other Power Talk Friday experts.
Yes.
But I will say this too. I've also pulled some of that information out of the Pricing Without Emotion class, and I put a class out there called Understanding Your Financials.
Yes.
Because what I found, if you remember when we taught the class, was a lot of people didn't understand how to read their financials. So they never understood how their individualized pricing fit into the financials of the company.
Exactly.
And so that is going to be what I would consider a precursor or a class that needs to be taken prior to Pricing Without Emotion to understand it. Right. But what I loved about your participation in that class, and I want to point it out, is that you came not only to learn for yourself, right, to understand what I was teaching and then to see how it applied to your business. You went back and implemented it, came back again, but then you also came back 1 or 2 times. You were coming back to understand the designers in the room and what they were looking at and what they needed, so that you could enhance your bookkeeping services and you could enhance the service that you offered to them, and even just the understanding. I know Christy, when she was on the podcast, as well as Peter Lang, both are accountants, and both of them made the comment how important it is to know and understand the industry. Right. And then I had Emily Moore on, who is a bookkeeper, and you as a bookkeeper, who are going, we need to understand the industry.
We do.
You poured out time and attention to do that, to understand what I was teaching, understand the business, but then to understand really the industry for designers and workrooms.
Right. Well, now I can say that probably 95% of our clientele are interior designers. And so that's huge. That's a great niche that we have. We love working with designers, and we understand I feel like we understand where they are, who they are. So thank you so much for saying that, because we love our designers. They're just, each one is very unique and individual, and we really do love being in this industry.
Yes. So, okay. So in 2014, when we met, you had just gone out on your own, as you kind of mentioned, and you were working with a few clients that you had attained by working with, Christy and some others. And let's talk about how your business has changed, because Sherry, you're not a person of one and a side hustle anymore.
No, we're not.
You're not. You're a full-time bookkeeping firm.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that morphed and how it changed, because it didn't go from a side hustle of one to a thriving team of 5 or more.
No.
How did you get from there to here?
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. We added, very methodically, employees, and sometimes it was a fail. I will say team members didn't work out, that happens. But now we have Isabel, who is bilingual, and I've got a huge announcement to make at the end about something that we're going to start to offer beginning 2020. And Isabel's going to help us with that in a big way. And then we've added Morgan. She's our onboarding specialist, and she's also my daughter. Who would ever thought that we would have a mother-daughter team, but she's fantastic. And we have Joanna, who's offsite, and we've added Kim. And then we've added an office manager, Aaron, and we are just growing and growing. We moved into an office space last year at a time where I thought, there's no way I can do this right now. I had some medical things going on, but one day my husband came home from work, and my driveway was full. And the house was full of people working everywhere. And he's like, Sherry, you've got to get an office. And he literally made us move into an office space. He was like, please get an office. I want to come home.
Sherry.
Yes. So we did that, and it's going to be 1 year in November that we've been in our office space.
Oh, that's crazy.
And we are just, we're loving every minute of it. And for a long time, we all used our cell phones, and I would give everyone a cell phone allowance because they were using their phones. Well, we just big thing for office. We just added an office phone system. It's like, wow, that's pretty crazy. But just watching our business grow and flourish, it's just been amazing. It's been really, really.
I think that gives you a really great opportunity to help designers and business owners that are coming to you as well, though, because you know what those growing pains look like.
Yes.
You and I get a question quite often from clients that we work with together, and we probably each get it individually with clients that we work with separately. And it is, can I grow in whatever way, right? Growth can mean multiple things. It can mean, can I add an employee? Can I move out of my space? Can I do this, that, take on this new line, take on this new opportunity? And there is some fear and trepidation that comes with making the decision, but because I've been through that and you've been through that, it puts us in a really great position to talk through that with them, but to also then look at the numbers and see if the numbers support that growth and support that opportunity. And so I think that experience, they always say you shouldn't coach from what you don't know, coach from what you know. And so it's also advise from what you know. And I've done it and you've done it. And so it puts us in a good position to be able to share with them. Even to your point about not every hire works out. I mean, I've had some hires of subcontractors and in the past employees that some worked and some didn't work. And it happens everywhere. And it's costly. And, I would say most people will say the same mantra. We hear it over and over and over: hire slowly, fire quickly.
Exactly.
But in the heat of the moment of wanting a person or a body, it's hard to slow it down that way.
Right.
But, we all are going to have those missteps and those things we learn from them and we move forward. And I think that's, you've had that experience. So then you've also gone from a side hustle to a thriving firm with, multiple people in an office space. And so just that transition makes you very valuable as a bookkeeper.
I appreciate you saying that, Michelle. Thank you. We do take this very, very seriously, and not only adding staff as team members, but adding on our clients. We don't want to add, a lot of times, we have to say we have a waiting list because we don't want to add too many all at once, because we want to make sure that we're giving everyone a good start. And here we're coming up at the end of the year, and when you're getting new starts now, we've got all of 2019 that we're looking at that we've got to get in order for them. So
Right.
It takes a little bit longer to do that process, but we take it very serious. It's not, we don't say, oh, come on, we're going to add all these new clients, or we're going to add a new employee and they're just going to, learn it as they go. No, it's not that way. We take it very, very seriously.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I mean, I have a wait list as well, just because it takes any of us, even the designers, they have wait lists. Many of them, if they're in a position that they're getting a lot of calls, you can't start every new project at the same time or at one time or in the same month. You have to push them out a little bit so that you can get to know the client. You can get to know, I think that's true in any service-based industry, whether it's bookkeeping, coaching, interior design, all of them. We have a waiting list, even the workrooms and the upholsterers and the stagers. You can't just show up and do everything in one day. It's got to be a very thought out process. And onboarding is taken very seriously in most companies that care about customer service and that how they feel and were they valued when they first came in. I heard one time, how you start the relationship sets the tone for how you keep it going.
That's a very good, I like that. Yes.
So let me ask this. I understand, and I love that you made the point that people that are calling for help at the end of a year for their financials, like, I've always called that forensic accounting, where you got to go back for the whole year. And that is not an easy task. It's a lot of digging, especially if you've got a project management software tool that is feeding data to your QuickBooks, your accounting software, or if you've been sporadic, that's a whole different thing than if you just were in there and everything's updated and you're switching bookkeepers. That's one model. Right. But when you're kind of half in and half out, or not in at all, and you got to recreate all these things, that's labor intensive. So knowing that, when is a good time for somebody to start? Let's say that they've not been keeping up with all of that. Is it sometimes better to wait and try to have a start like with the new year, like in January, and kind of manually reconcile the past year? When is it not a good time to try to start all over?
It depends on what they want out of the system. It depends on what they're looking for to get started. Okay. If they are not comfortable with their bookkeeping skills for the year, and they want to have us do the catch-up work, then we are more than happy to do that and do, we may not have the breakdowns in the COGS or in the income like we will when we're actively involved in the beginning of the year but we can rebuild it for them if that's what they need. If they're like, I don't even want to think about it. I haven't filed my taxes yet. We literally got a client at the beginning of September so that we could pull their 2018 together.
Oh my gosh, because they had to reach before the October extension.
Yes. And then, so we're doing their 18 while we're also doing their 19 and getting them in order. But honestly, at this point, we're going to have it together for, it's amazing what it looks like. And they're thinking, oh my, they've never seen it. They've never seen a balance sheet before. I know. With their numbers on it. They've never seen the breakdown of a month-to-month P&L. So it's
probably eye-opening for them.
Oh, it's very eye-opening.
I know you and I've had a couple of clients that when they started with me, they came to me and they had most of their things like in a shoebox, and we always giggle about that. But it happens. It could be a virtual shoebox, meaning it's all sitting in Excel, or it's sitting in as a bunch of receipts over here. And manual invoices that we sent. It happens, and we're not making fun of that. I started off doing the same thing.
Right.
But there is such a relief when we can start to comb through that. And I love how you said too, it may be that as we comb through it with them, it's not broken down in the detail that we would want going forward, but it's broken down enough for that particular calendar year that we can make decisions. And then we can break it down into more detail, more granular for the next year, where we can manage from the very beginning and stay on top of it. But it is super empowering to them when they see those documents and they see the numbers. And so then it becomes less of, well, that's what I thought I was looking at, and more of, oh, wow, that's the number.
Yes, it's very eye-opening.
And it's exciting to present them with that.
It is. We love that part. Yes, we do. Yes.
So having worked with the interior design industry and workroom industry, and, you know, when I say interior design, I've got the little umbrella over it because I think you've worked with some stagers before as well. Mm-hmm. But what do you see as their biggest struggle with bookkeeping?
Man, I would say there are a couple that I would like to hit on here. They're managing their purchase orders. And managing them correctly so that everything flows through the process so that they can do job profitability in the end.
Right.
And so when we can present that, it's a very happy day. We're happy to be able to teach our clients how to use their purchase order systems. Another struggle is understanding how retainers work. And do you remember, so when you and I first started working together, retainers weren't going on the balance sheet. They were going on the income.
Right.
But they're really not, it's not income yet until it's been applied to an invoice. Yes, until they've earned the money. And then, you know, it's very important that we reconcile that retainer account throughout the year, and especially at the end of the year for tax purposes.
Right.
So
those funds need to be allocated properly. And it pains me to look at all the money sitting as income, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 retainers, and they have it sitting that it came in January on a P&L, and they're not even spending those funds until October.
Right.
And it's, number one, it skews the entire year because that's money that you're holding that you've not earned. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as a profit first coach, if we market that we've earned it, it starts to get allocated for other things.
Yes.
And then that money gets allocated to send somebody on a trip for the company when it really should have been allocated for something else. And so managing those funds properly, it's not just about doing it so that the money's in the right place. It's actually a legal issue, because if somebody were to come back to you and the contract were to be broken and you had to give it back and you've spent it because you've included it as income and gone through the year with it, that puts you in a really bad position.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's very serious. Yes.
And that's retainers that we get in some ways for cost of goods and for services.
Yes, for both. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we have to be really, really careful with that. Another area, Michelle, is sales tax. And sales tax it's constantly changing since the Wayfair Tax Act and all of that. And now if you're doing business, you know, for a lot of times, I don't know if you remember when you and I first started working together, we had a client that had been collecting sales tax for years, and she was basically giving herself a 7.5%.
Never paid it.
She never paid it out. Yeah. And actually
not because she didn't know how to do it.
She didn't know. And actually, you know, just helping them to understand that and keeping that in balance.
Right.
And making sure that on the balance sheet, if it says that this is what we've collected, we've got to pay that liability.
Right. The other thing that drives me a little bit crazy is when you can tell when that there is a lack of knowledge is when they put sales tax on a P&L.
Yes.
Because it's not a P&L item. And I have seen quite a few where people have set up their own books and it's showing up on the P&L, and the income on a P&L is does not include sales tax. So
Right.
it can't come off of a P&L.
That's-
It's like you said, it's a balance sheet item.
Right.
But I can tell, and I go, wait a minute, we got to clean up sales tax. I want to pound on that one for just a second, because I don't think we've had a lot of conversation on sales tax on the podcast. Couple of things. Every state manages it a little bit differently.
Oh, they do.
So this isn't like federal income tax that is a blanket, here's how we're going to handle it across the country. Every state is a little bit different with sales tax.
Yes.
On if they base it on a cash basis, accrual basis, if it's partial payments and full payments, all of those things come into play. In addition, I'm going to say those that are on project management software systems that feed QuickBooks, not all of them feed sales tax in the way that each individual state needs to see it or have it paid. And so it's not, we can't just trust the feeding of the information. We've got to then go in and manage it properly. Would you agree with that? And because I see that show up a lot where it's either fed and maybe fed incorrectly. Sometimes it can be fed correctly. Sometimes it can be fed twice. And if you're not watching and you're just paying without looking and reconciling and looking and going through the QuickBooks sales tax system. So I see bigger issues when people try to pay sales tax and go around what QuickBooks has put in place. And that just creates a whole nother set of liability issues that you can't clean up. I mean, the journal entry can get crazy trying to trace that back.
It is crazy. It is definitely an issue that we are constantly having to stay on top of in our office, because we file sales tax across the whole U.S. because we have clients from here to there. And one of the things that I have found that is that a lot of times the CPA doesn't understand how QuickBooks is working when the invoice is going through. So they want the sales tax to be an expense. And I have to say, no, wait a second. When we do the invoicing through QuickBooks and we do it correctly, then even if it's feeding over from Ivy or MyDoma or whatever, but it's coming over to QuickBooks, this is the wherewithal of how we file sales tax is through QuickBooks, whatever QuickBooks is telling us. And like you said, if it's a cash basis or it's accrual, that's very important. And so I had just, when QuickBooks does the invoicing, the sales tax is going to go to the liability. It's not on the P&L.
Right.
So that, and if it's done correctly, then when we make that payment, it's going to reduce the liability.
Exactly.
But I've been challenged several times from CPA that did not understand how QuickBooks works, and said that should have been on the P&L.
Yes.
So and the reason why they don't know is because that's what they don't know, because they don't do this every day.
Right. That's not the day-to-day part of what they do. Theirs is usually more oversight and tax.
What they handle is a much greater thing than what it's kind of like, I stay in my lane and they stay in their lane, and then we work together.
Right.
To make it all come together for the best for our client.
It like I giggle sometimes at giggle's not the right word, but I look at, like, when people send me their financials to review, which, let me just say, when people ask me to jump in and do a financial review for them, I love that. I love it. I love it when they are saying my books are a mess. Will you look at them? I love it when they say my books are clean, and everywhere in between. Like, not one bit of it shocks me. It doesn't scare me. But I always I try to be careful, of course, with the way I share the information that I'm seeing. But I've had some that I had to almost laugh. It was like, you owe, I don't know, $135,000 in sales tax. And I knew there was no way that they were still in business owing that. And that's what kind of makes me giggle. And then I'll say to them, oh, did you know that based on your balance sheet, you owe $135,000 in sales tax? And then they gasp, and I go, okay, so really what that means is the liability wasn't cleaned out, and you probably paid sales tax outside of the QuickBooks system. We need to go in with your bookkeeper and get that cleaned up. And it's little things like that, though, that if you ever had to present a balance sheet or really knowing where the money goes, you can't do it because it's not clean. So you don't have a great picture. But the cool thing is kind of like when we share the information and they see it, they're quick to go in and fix it or have it fixed, right? And then just the relief that they feel that those books are clean afterwards. But I'll tell you, sales tax is one of those things you don't want to cheat the government, state or federal, out of their money.
No.
Because if they do an audit, they're going to eat you up. And so, again, whether it's manually entered or whether it's coming and being fed from a project management system, there still has to be a chance to look at it. Because here's the other part of it. There are some project management tools out there, and there are multiples, right? So we're not even talking about one in particular, but there are multiples, and some of them send data into QuickBooks. And it may seem in some cases that is saving you huge amounts of time and money, and you don't have to duplicate. And in some cases, it's very true. But the challenge is if sales tax is not looked at and managed properly, regardless of what's just sent over, it can cost you more in bookkeeping fees to go back and clean it up than you saved by sending it.
Yes, I agree.
And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. And so, I've had many designers come to me, and in all honesty, complaining about bookkeeping fees. And the bookkeeping fees weren't the day-to-day bookkeeping fees. It was the cleanup fees from things that were sent from some other third-party system.
Yes.
And so we do just need to be careful that we have a process. And some of it is not necessarily the project management tool. It's the process that the designer is using to manage the data flow. Like, are you taking money against proposals? Are you taking money against invoices? Where are you invoicing? Where are you collecting? And I love how your firm also helps the designers that you work with, but based on whatever project management system they're on, you help them create a process of even when to go back and update an invoice or when not to update an invoice, when to create a second invoice or whatever. You help them with a process to manipulate and to manage the data to reduce the bookkeeping errors and cleanup.
Yes. It's so important. When it's about the organization and the communication between us and them, the better the communication is, the better the organization is on their part, the less their bookkeeping fees are going to be.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter whether it's a $2 million revenue a year or a 500 or a 200.
Right.
It's more about the processes and if they're in place and the amount of time. That's the bottom line.
And the more that we have clean processes in a smaller amount of time, the more ability we have to scale. So again, whether it's 200 to 500 to 2 million.
Exactly.
I love that, because I think that's one of the ways that your company is really focused on customer service, is not just cleaning it up and just letting it be the cleanup, but also saying, here's how we can address the process that created it so that we can reduce this going forward. What other ways do you focus on customer service? We've mentioned onboarding and really getting to know the client. And then I know that you do a lot of advising for process and things like that will help reduce errors.
Just helping them with their processes. We do, if they want to have a monthly call, we do a monthly call with them to go over their financials. I have some clients that I do a weekly call with. One of our clients that you and I work with together, we have a weekly call with her. And, it keeps me on top. Since our business has started to grow, I'm finding that I'm not as involved in the day-to-day of everyone's business like I used to be. But I like it when I can do the phone calls with them and I can help review their accounts. One of the things that we've put in place in the practice here is that I'm doing at least a quarterly review on every client that we have. And of course, that doesn't mean it's only at the end of every quarter, but I am really digging deep into those financial statements to make sure that, and so it's not only my eyes, but each account manager, before we send them out, another account manager reviews them. One of the things that we did this year is we put a workflow process system in place for our office. And everyone became certified through Pure Bookkeeping as well as Jetpack workflow. And that's helping us. We can't expect our clients to put all of their processes in place if we're not going to do the same. And so it has really improved our processes here and helped us to understand, where the holes were, so that we're making sure that we are crossing all the I's, all the T's, and the saying how that goes.
Yep.
Yes. Dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. It's just
and
really
I love
important.
too, Sherry, that then allows for more accuracy, because let's be honest, mistakes happen. We're all human.
Yes. Right.
And so there are things that one person might catch and one person might miss, or an experience that one person has had and they know to look for something. The other person maybe hasn't had that experience or seen it that way. And that duplication of review certainly helps.
Right.
So, all right. So what are 3 areas that you encourage your clients to look at each month? If they're a designer, you and I have had this conversation for years, right? And they go, I don't know what to look at. I know what I ask them to look at.
Okay.
What do you ask them to look at?
So with their management package, we send out every month, we send out an open AR, an open accounts receivable invoice list. So that they can review, do they agree that these invoices are actually still outstanding? This is what's showing in the books. Is this true? And that's where a lot of times you might catch where a retainer was supposed to be applied to an invoice and that sort of thing. Another area is unpaid accounts payable bills, making sure that they've been paid correctly. If there are outstanding purchase orders, why are they not matching the bills? Well, there's probably been a change in pricing. There's probably shipping involved. Maybe you were charged tax when you weren't supposed to be. So we're always encouraging them to look at those.
Or they just forgot to attach them. I had a client recently that had a huge AP. I'm talking like $100 and something thousand. And I said, is this the case? And they're like, no. I said, something didn't get applied properly.
Right.
Or was a duplicate entry?
Right. Exactly. Yes. We're always looking at those every month. We go through their P&L, their profit and loss statement. We look at the month to date by month comparison, the year to date by month, and we're able to show them where, okay, so a lot of times, when you might receive a huge payment on an invoice, but you're not really starting to purchase those items until the following month. So you've got to be able to look at the by month P&L,
right,
and understand that. And then, I know you've been talking about this a lot lately, is the balance sheet. And
because I think people are fearful of it, and they know how to. They feel like they can, the P&L makes more sense to them, right? Because this is what came in, this is what goes out, this is my bill paying. That's more like our checkbook register.
Right.
And I think they're more used to seeing that, and they just zoom right by that balance sheet. And I've been like poking my finger at the balance sheet. You're right. For the last couple of years.
Well, we say we need to watch that like a hawk. We need to make sure that you're not letting your liabilities catch up with you. If you've taken out a loan, or you're letting your American Express or one of your credit cards build up, and you're spending money that's showing up on your P&L, but you're not reducing your liabilities, that's a huge area where we need to make sure that doesn't happen. We don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
In the end. So we really we encourage looking at that. And if there are loans on there, if there are credit cards, we need to get those down. We need to pay those down. We need to make sure that you are in line. If you've been paid for this job that these credit card fees are for, we need to get those down.
I know one of the things you and I also worked on when we were working together very closely in this area was to have the owners of the company or somebody representing that company prior to the bookkeeping service look at the credit card bill to make sure there's no fraud, no double entries or anything. We can't just download it from American Express and keep going. Somebody really needs to take a glance at it and make sure there's nothing there that shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Because we don't know, you know, and we find things, thank goodness we're able to find things by that, having those reviews and having that information there. But if we weren't doing that, then just, especially in today's world,
very quickly, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
One of the, and you and I've talked about this, one of the courses that I created was called, and still is, Understanding Your Financials. If anybody's interested, you can go to scarletthreadconsulting.com and look up that course. And that course walks you through how to read the P&L, how to read the balance sheet, how to create a cash flow document, how to create a budget, how to create a plan and goals for the financials in your company. And that was one of the pieces that was pulled out of the Pricing Without Emotion course to be a standalone course. And I've had, no matter how much you sit down sometimes with a bookkeeper or an accountant and go over it, there's something about taking a course and understanding it on your own, or having it that you can go back to refer to. And I know too, Sherry, you and all the others that I've been interviewing in the financial realm, you all are so very open to saying to your clients, if you don't understand, ask me and let me help you. Don't just go, and then be lost. Like, ask me 5 times if that's what you need for me to help you answer that. And I think that is fantastic. And I think that's what those, meetings once a month or once a quarter or whenever that client needs it, is super helpful for. What are some other ways that a designer or someone in the industry looking for a bookkeeper, how can they get themselves prepared so that they work together with the bookkeeper very seamlessly?
Again, it's all about being organized, and it's never too soon to hire a bookkeeper. I feel like it's best if you, even if you are just getting started, to let a bookkeeper help you get your QuickBooks set up in the very beginning. Don't wait until you're so busy that then you don't have time to deal with it and things can be a mess. Go ahead and get started as soon as possible. Even if, we offer quarterly packages now, and we offer, for those that don't quite need the monthly service, we offer setup to help you get your project management system set up so that it's mapping correctly into your chart of accounts. And we offer training so that we can provide the new business owner with the information that they need. So it's never too soon to get started.
You know what I think about that is, I think sometimes you're right. We wait until we're so overwhelmed, or we have so much coming in, or the business is growing, or we've taken our eye off of it because we're so busy with design and with everything else, all the other, the sewing, whatever the aspect is that is the main core of our business, that then we're almost overwhelmed. And so then it's going to always cost you more, because you've got to go back and do that cleanup, that forensic accounting, and figuring it all out. So starting at the beginning puts you in a position to have it grow with you all along. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I just need QuickBooks setup help. All right. And then maybe you go 6 months to a year, and hey, I think I need a little more education help. Okay, maybe you go into year 2. Year 3, maybe you're like, I kind of need some bookkeeping light to help me each month, right? And then you may get to a point where you're like, I just need you to take over all of it, and keep me updated and ready. Let's talk about a couple of things that bookkeepers do, that are so great. So some of them can do as much as doing purchase orders for you, invoices for you. And I mean, every single thing that you would do in QuickBooks, right? There is like this luxury package, if you will, that says I can do everything for you. And then you've got the reconciliation parts that happen. And then you've got payroll, like your firm offers payroll. And there's a lot more that goes on with that as well. And then pulling the documents together so that you can take them to a tax accountant at tax time.
Right. You know what else we do for our clients, and this is a huge thing, are 1099s.
Yes. Didn't even think about that one, but you're absolutely right. That's a lot.
It is a lot. And it's becoming very, very important. Remember, back in the day, it was just, it was a hit or miss thing.
Right.
But since you and I have since we've known each other and been working together, it's a very serious thing. And you can be fined an awful lot. And there are deadlines with that. So,
right.
We keep an eye on that. We are tracking subcontractors for our clients to make sure, what we say is, do not give your subcontractor their first check until you have a W-9 on file.
Right.
Once you have a W-9, you can pay them all you want, but you need that information. It's so important. But trust me, if you tell them that you're gonna not be able to pay them until you have a W-9, you'll have a W-9.
Right. And the other thing is based on how we pay them.
Right.
I mean, those have changed. It used to be, it didn't matter how you paid them.
Right.
Then the rules are, if you paid them through a credit card, or you paid them through PayPal, or you paid them here, there's who gets one and who doesn't. And, it gets muddier every year as some of these things change. And so it's important to have somebody who's on your team who understands the rules and the regulations, just like with sales tax. And, oh gosh, here's another one that we've talked about how many times: Nexus.
And
tell us what Nexus is, because I know there's
Nexus
some going.
Is the relation.
Go ahead.
Nexus is the relationship between the states and the relationship that you have with that state, if you have a presence in that state. And in different states, that could be $100,000 sales. That could be 200. It could be, if you have a salesperson in that jurisdiction.
It changes.
Every time we have a client that is in a new state, we are researching that. We're taking, one of the things that we are going to start in 2020 is we're going to do a blog, and that's one of our first blogs is about sales
Nexus.
Yes.
Because here's what we're talking about Nexus too. This is like if a designer lives in Georgia and they're doing work in Florida.
Yes, exactly.
And so they have a client with a home in Florida, and they're now, the designer's living in Georgia and they're working in Florida. Yes. That's one example.
Right.
And then what is the limit? Think about it this way. If somebody worked corporate and they worked corporate in Georgia, or they lived in Georgia, so they had residency in Georgia, but they worked in, what's the state next to us? South Carolina. So they drove into South Carolina to work every day. The question still then becomes, where do we pay income tax? Like, where am I taxed on what I did in that state, right? So does Georgia get it because you live there, or does South Carolina? So when in corporate, we work all those things out across state. Nexus is when we're working these things out across state, when you're doing business across state lines.
Yes.
And there are rules, and every state's different on what constitutes you having a presence. And then you've got the question of, did you purchase it in one state and ship it to that state? Did you purchase it online and have it delivered to that state? There's just a lot of details that come up, and a lot of people aren't aware of it, don't know, and are just going on. But some of these can be a big deal. And again, there are fines that can be levied in those instances.
Right. Well, and then if you have to pay tax, so a lot of times I'll have a client who may collect tax in, let's say, Massachusetts. And then, so when I see that they've collected, I send an email. So do you have your Massachusetts sales tax ID information that you could share with me? And do you have the login? And it's just, it's not known. They don't realize that that's
right.
They don't, so it's a mistake that,
and those are changing too. I mean, if we even think about it, it used to be, with online purchasing, Amazon and all of that, it used to be that there may or may not be sales tax. And then it was, did you buy anything online that you didn't pay tax for? So all of the taxing, whether it's income taxing, sales taxing, in all of that is shifting and changing, especially if there start to become loopholes in certain areas. They're going around and tightening those up at the state level and at the federal level. And
another thing, and this, when you file Georgia sales tax, you'll know that there are different jurisdictions in each of the counties. And so those have to be listed.
Right.
But then there are a lot of states like Colorado where you have to file those individually. So we may have a client that we're filing 6 and 7 sales tax returns for each month.
Right.
Because each jurisdiction has to be filed separately.
Well, and then another area of taxation that we have to watch for carefully, some of the Northeast states like New York and New Jersey, some of them require you to pay a tax to the state based on the profit in the company.
Yes.
Right. Which is a little bit different. It's a little bit different than a normal state income tax. It's you still have one tax. It's a different tax. It's a company tax. Some do corporation taxes or LLC taxes, which are very different.
Do you realize too that in New York, for instance, their quarter is based on different months than the rest of the United States? Their quarter filing is, for instance, it's not January, February, March, but their first quarter is November, December, and January.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, it's different.
Wow.
The quarter filing is different.
And that's where working with the bookkeeper, I think, who understands and knows the rules and checks out all the different states and the counties and even down to the jurisdiction is super important if you're working anywhere outside of one area. Because that can get very sticky very fast. Because I know a lot of designers, especially up in the Northeast, they're traveling to a lot of those different states, or they have clients in New Jersey and New York and Connecticut, all across state lines.
Right.
And it becomes a bit cumbersome. We do a lot of cleanup in that area with my Northeast clients.
Yes.
So, Sherry, you mentioned that you've got some things coming this next year. What's one of the big profit goals or some changes in your business that are coming?
So one of the things that we have coming up is we are going to begin in 2020 offering bilingual services.
Oh, nice.
And, I read a statistic the other day, and it says if you're bilingual, you can communicate with 80% of the world. And, Isabel has been with me for a very long time. She's from Venezuela. And she it's just a passion that we have that we would like to help educate in the Spanish community. And so we're just starting to put that out there, that this is something that we're starting to offer. And we're excited about that. So
that is fantastic.
That is one of the things that and then, I work really, really closely with Christy Lott, the CPA, and I've known her since the early 2000s. I think she was probably still a student in college when I first met her and just getting ready to get her CPA. And we refer she is my go-to CPA for our clients if they need to have CPA services. And we are thinking about what the next step might be for Christy and I together. And that's all I can say right now.
Good deal. Well, I love Christy, and I have a huge amount of clients that are working with her. She's my personal CPA.
Yeah.
And, I adore her.
Yes.
So I think that's exciting. And I think it's super exciting to have bookkeeping services for the interior design industry in Spanish speaking, which could be very comfortable if it's a first language, instead of having to not only speak in a second language of English for a financial conversation that could maybe not be a strong suit, right? So at least coming back to maybe a native language to have that conversation about a difficult topic makes it easier. And so I'm so glad that Isabel is bringing that knowledge and ability to your firm. And I think that is definitely something that will set you apart going forward. So Sherry, where all do you hang out online? So you're on Instagram and Facebook, and tell us where your website is so people can go check you out.
So our website is www.businessbythebook.money.
Great. Businessbythebook.money. Great. And I encourage everybody to go there and check it out, especially if you are Spanish speaking and would love to have help in that area. Sherry and her team work with design clients who are on multiple project management systems. So, don't worry if you're on one and not on another. Just give her a call, talk to her team. But they support many of the project management systems that could feed into QuickBooks or that just run parallel and beside. They don't all have to be feeders. And so they can also help you clean up your processes and do forensic bookkeeping and get you clean and ready so that you don't have to keep filing tax extensions. That's one of the things that I always loved, is having clients that once they worked with your team come back and they go, I can file on time. And there's a relief in that versus having it put off and not knowing and feeling this idea that you might owe but you're not sure, and that's just that uncomfortability, that stress isn't there. I also want to say, I think everybody on here knows I'm a Profit First certified coach. I have a Master Your Profit course that teaches you how to do that, and Sherry and her team are also great at supporting the clients that I send them that are doing Profit First. So they work with me to learn how to do it, and then they work with Sherry and her team to set up, because not all of them have the same accounts. People can have different Profit First accounts, and they do support that. So if you've got one of those, different types of things, Sherry and her team can support you in that as well. Sherry, anything else you want to share?
I just want to, I was listening to something this morning, and I just want to say this. Don't allow setbacks to discourage you, okay? Because we all have setbacks. And it could be in our health or in our business or our personal life. But I just want to encourage everyone to keep your faith and your focus on what your goal is. And remember that there's a season for everything. The fact that when I met Michelle, I would have never have known that we would be here today doing this, having this conversation. And so my season for meeting Michelle and getting to know her and working with her has just been fantastic. And so I definitely recommend her to whatever your business is. Whether you're a designer or a workroom or another bookkeeping firm or a CPA firm, Michelle can help you with your business. And I just think that she is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I do remember when we started working together and you were starting to understand the interior design industry in the workroom, and I was explaining everything to you to get you up to date on everything. I remember saying to you, Sherry, hold on, because when I start sending clients your way, this is going to explode. We need to get you ready for the explosion. Do you remember that?
I do.
I was like, Sherry, get ready. We need to we got to start building your team, because now that you understand and you know what you're doing, with the industry specifics, we're going to start pummeling you with people. And so they're waiting. They're just waiting to find the person that can help solve the problem. And if you can solve the problem with the bookkeeping, I can send the people over there. And so it's so fun. I certainly am not now the only one sending people your way. Others are doing it word of mouth and all kinds of other things. But it's been super fun that you were open to the growth, especially when we met. It was a side hustle, and then it's become, a thriving family-owned firm, and just very, very exciting to watch you grow and to step into not just the bookkeeping, but the owner and the management of a company, like watching you move up to that CEO level and fill in the management positions and the technician positions under you, and to pull you up so that you could create what you've done. It's been truly an honor for me, and it's been amazing to watch you grow like that and to have had any part in the encouragement of it. So well done. Very well done.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time with us today, Sherry.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Sherry, for being on the podcast. We're getting close to year end, and as Sherry said, it's never too early to get a bookkeeper. And I just want to say, try to do it before it's too late. Find someone to help you and be in your corner. If you find yourself in a business where you need ongoing support that is more than bookkeeping, consider joining the Designers Inner Circle. That is a group that I coach each month. We meet at least twice, if not 3 times a month, face-to-face, if you will, through a Zoom call. And I've got designers, workroom upholsterers in there, and we're really working together to grow our businesses and our processes and our firms. even our income, and to understand all the different aspects of the business. It's been super amazing to see what's come out of being in this group together, and the friendships that are formed, the collaborations that are forming. And no matter your goal, I can assist you in gaining clarity and focus towards achieving it. So go to scarletthreadconsulting.com for more details and check out the Designer's Inner Circle. Make a choice today, because profit doesn't happen by accident.